creating two different people. We can only have the president and someone who assists the president. So in the absence of the president, the deputy president should step in.
Hello guys, welcome to The Nation We Want, a show that focuses on politics, leadership and governance. You have a voice, use it. Joining me today is Paul Ombuna, a political commentator and a blogger. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So yesterday I'm sure you watched DP Ruto's interview
I did.
with Joy Ayego. Yeah. And there were some questions that are coming up from that interview. And should the president have powers to fire his deputy in case of dysfunctionality, according to you?
According to me, the president and the deputy president should have some protection to finish their terms. So the president should not get the powers to sack the deputy president. If at all the president feels that the deputy is not working as he wishes, then the president can initiate a motion in parliament to impeach the deputy president. That's a better route than directly firing the deputy president like Mo used to do.
So that's provided in the law?
Right now in the law you cannot fire the deputy president. He's protected by the law. But there is also an avenue to impeach the deputy president.
In case of this?
Yeah, in case the president or anyone else wishes, so there's a laid down procedure to impeach the deputy president.
So would it be better if the deputy president is given independent duties that cannot be assigned or related to the president?
I think the deputy is a deputy, is an assistant. You can't separate the two. If you separate the two, then you are creating two different people. We can only have the president and someone who assists the president. So in the absence of the president, the deputy president should step in.
But
so you can't just say that the deputy president is supposed to have his own powers and the president, maybe he can be assigned some roles, but he has also to accept the roles assigned by the president.
What can we do then in terms of what is happening now? We've seen DP Ruto's roles being taken over by Matiang'i. How can we prevent such things happening in the future?
It's very hard in a highly politicized environment like Kenya to help such a scenario. But as a country, if we took Chapter 6 very serious, Deputy President could have resigned. That's what happens in other democracies. If the deputy president is working with the president and the deputy president feels undermined, then he has an obligation on the basis of integrity to resign. But I think for some reasons Ruto did not want to resign, and that is right. And Uhuru, of course, did not want to push him out of power, because Uhuru has had more room to push him out of power. But for political reasons, again, you don't have to go that route.
Okay. So what's your view on public servants getting involved in partisan politics?
Right now as we speak, I might be a little bit lenient on those people who are involved in politics. But legally and objectively, public servants are supposed to be non-partisan, impartial. So Matiang'i, Munya, and all those others people, Kibicho, are not supposed to be involved in politics, in active politics. There's some passive involvement which you cannot avoid most of the time. But in active politics, like going out there, then just starting to campaign for someone, that should not be happening.
Then moving on, there's this new ICT bill that has been introduced, whereby one is required to be a holder of a degree in order to practice in ICT in Kenya. What does that mean for you?
One thing I should know that most professions are gatekept. Gatekeeping is a scenario where you introduce a lot of bureaucracies to prevent more people from entering the profession. So that's what they want to create for the ICT field. one problem with that bill is that there are people who have created their ICT expertise out of formal education.
Yeah.
And there are a lot more people who are becoming ICT experts out of self-learning courses, online courses. So you don't want someone to tell someone you cannot become a programmer if you have not gone through formal education. That will be locking out people with potential, locking out innovators, and that is a problem in many fields. So I don't want it to be the case in ICT. I think the president should reject that one because he has the final say.
And so, what are the 3 reforms that you hope that the next government will take?
The next government has a lot of responsibilities, given that they are inheriting a regime that has had a lot of shortcomings. One of the priorities I expect to see the next government initiate is investing in people.
Yes.
Specifically in manufacturing. What if you check what the government has done for the past 10 years or 9.5 years in which Uhuru and Ruto have been in power, they have invested heavily on infrastructure, which is not bad. Uhuru has invested in railway, in roads, in electricity, coal. All those facilitate trade that benefit people. So what we need is manufacturing. We need the railway to be used like right now I think the SGR uses the railway line like twice a day or thrice a day.
Yeah.
We want to see it used like 10 times a day because we have a lot of containers arriving in the port of Mombasa. We have a lot of containers from manufacturing sectors of country going outside the country. And that's how you create jobs for millions of people, millions of youths who do not have jobs. That's one. The second reforms I expect to see is corruption. Corruption has been costly in this government. I was estimating the expressway. The total cost is around 96 billion. If I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
It's around 96 billion for a 26-kilometer road. That is close to 3.5 billion for every kilometer. That cost is outrageous. That's okay. There's some roads that can use that, but for this country, that's too much.
True.
The other day I saw Gatunda MP Moses Kuria say there's a road in Lamu where putting a muram was costing over, I think he said around 50 million a kilometer. 50 million is enough to tarmac the road. But because this government also works with dealers in every sector, they have inflated everything. SGR, they spent 350 billion. SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi should not have cost more than 100 billion.
True.
That means there's some people. So if the next government is going to deal with corruption, that will benefit.
About SGR, something also came up that the people who are dislocated, they were supposed to be compensated, but it never happened.
I don't think there's anyone who was never compensated. If there is someone who has said he has never been compensated, then someone else took the money he was supposed to get. And that's part of corruption now. You see, you are dislocating people. The same case with expressway. They have displaced businesses, houses, power lines. But when you check, there are some people, they just identify like a place that is some idle place, and then they just say, I own this piece of land. Maybe the owner purchased in 1980s and went abroad. By the time the owner comes back, goes to file a claim, you find there's someone who was paid for this. That was what was happening for SGR. And that's why we need to deal with corruption. The last reform, I want to see more investment in education. Uhuru has not invested as much in education as Kibaki did. From the time Uhuru took over in 2013, they have introduced some fees in both primary, secondary and tertiary institutions. I want to see them invest more, especially on tertiary institutions. I want to see the transition rate. Right now, I think from primary school to high school, there's like 80% transition rate. So we are losing like 20% of the students who sit for KCP do not transition to high school. Now the rate of transition from high school to tertiary institutions is even way low. It's just like 30-40%. So I want to see it go up to 80% because there is some leverage when you have an educated population.
I saw in the manifesto given by the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate, he was saying he'll introduce free secondary and tertiary education, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that is possible, something that is doable?
Someone like me was the beneficiary of free secondary education after Kibaki promised the same in 2007 elections. There were people who were thinking that it was not possible to finance secondary education, but he managed. So if we are going to deal with corruption, then we invest in manufacturing, in education. We are going to collect more taxes, have more revenue, and we can finance education out of that.
Lastly, what about the issue about Mitumba? The Azimio presidential candidate talked about boosting textile manufacturing industries and stuff, but there's a lot of issues coming out online.
I think he might have been misquoted on the issue of Mitumba, especially using the word dead people, but mostly what happens with Mitumba is those are clothes that have been used and people are releasing them to other people. They have value to some, but for some other countries it's best to first invest in your manufacturing sector. When you invest in manufacturing sector, especially to manufacture clothes, you create jobs, you increase the tax base, you increase the consumption of infrastructure. I've said like we need, next time SGR when it's leaving Nairobi, it has some 100 containers for clothes importing to other countries. So when you manufacture the clothes in your own country, you create more jobs. There's a lot of benefits compared to when you are bringing Mitumba from abroad. So I think Mitumba can be phased out progressively. It's not like from August it is going to be banned. Just do it progressively.
There are reports that the government is hesitant to do that because it will ruin its ties to the US.
First, the US is it called African Growth Opportunity Act. The agreement is expiring in 2025, I think. So we have like 3 years. So it is not something we are going to bang on. It's an agreement that is expiring. And we will not be the first one to ban Mitumba. Rwanda have done it, Tanzania have done it. And then out of that we can also negotiate with the US on that. We don't have like to keep on the status quo. If there was something we agreed 10 years ago, why can't we review it right now? It is 12 years down the line. You can review it and tell them, we have seen we want to reduce our Mitumba exports. Maybe they can introduce quotas, they can introduce a more excise duty, more taxes, and they just tell them we want to limit Mitumba to create our manufacturing sector.
Okay, that's it. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, welcome.
So there you have it. We have come to the end of the show. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.